Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dream Oracle for You. This is episode 13. In today's episode, we don't have a concrete plan, but what we wanted to just kind of discuss dreams in general, perhaps do some interpretation of a couple of our dreams that have popped up for us, maybe mention some symbols and stuff. I just wanted to first, before we dive all the way into our episode, to just thank you to all of our listeners who have been listening so far. Our channel is gaining traction, and I think we owe a big shout out to our recent guest, Sarah Seeger, as well as my own recent interview with Narita McInnes on Rock the Ripple podcast. So I just wanted to have a shout out to all of our listeners. We're grateful to have you here and hope you enjoyed today's show. Biljana, before we dive into wherever the flow takes us today, do you have anything on your heart you want to start things off with?
Apart from, I suppose, sharing our dreams, I think yeah, I'd like to, yeah, just discuss maybe like our dreams and interpret our dreams a little bit. Um, just because I'm feeling like everything we've been talking about, it's like sharing knowledge and our experiences and that sort of stuff. But I thought it'd be good to share something a bit more personal, so then people can understand how to interpret dreams a little bit, even just listening to other people's dreams and make people feel like they're not strange or crazy that they're having all these weird and wacky dreams. So like it's normal to have these dreams that don't make sense. And it's just the opportunity to dig deeper, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think it's time that we do an episode that talks a little bit more in depth about dreams instead of just kind of the exterior of dreams, if you will.
yeah.
Okay, so where shall we start?
Well, I can start with my dream, even though I've shared it with you before. But
Yeah, but
for the
not
listeners,
yeah, not for our listeners. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think if there's any kind of header or like background that we should do first. I don't mean background in terms of your dream, but just kind of an overview. And I don't really have anything planned. I'm just talking and hoping something comes through. Um, yeah, like of how we go about doing the interpretation, I guess, or how you break down your dreams. Or should I listen to yours first and then go?
yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Well, I can say after I've had a dream and it's generally quite vivid, I do like write it down. So
Hmm.
that really helps to remember. And it's as soon as you wake up, I find and I've been hearing it like listening to different interviews. People say it's like when you're still in the like you're not fully awake, you're just waking up, is to try and remember what you've just dreamt. So then, it is really, in the front of your mind. So when you do wake up, you can, if you got a journal right next to you, or you got something, notepad or whatever, and jot it down. What I do is I write the date and the time, and that way it just gives you a general idea of when it happened.
Hmm.
Because yeah, if you're interested in dates and numbers and that sort of stuff down the track, that can help as well. So
Yeah, there might be some hidden numerology involved.
yeah, exactly. So that's what all I write down. I did start to, with the moon, what phase of the moon,
Hmm.
but that kind of died pretty quick. I didn't. I
Yeah,
think it was like, nah, it's too complicated. I want to keep it simple. I
it's a lot of
just
extra
for the
work.
sake of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just drew the moon and then that was all. Yeah.
Um,
But
do you
yeah,
get
and I kind of, you go, sorry.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, do you get woken up in the middle of the night? Like, say if you have to go to the restroom or something, and then you would recognize you had a dream and write it down, like before going to to go pee.
Sometimes because it's so vivid and uh I think because I'm so awake, I'm like, all right, I might as well write it down because it's going to be with me till the morning and it might help me go back to sleep. Or there might be more.
Mm.
I might have another dream after I go back to sleep. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting. Where I've definitely have that, and I'd be curious to know if our listeners do that too. Where there are some dreams that it's like you get woken up from, but you weren't finished the dream. And so then you go back to sleep and you like pretty much pick up the dream where you left off. And that's definitely something we should ponder sometime.
yeah. What about you? Before, like I mentioned my dream, what do you write down when you're doing your journal
Yeah,
or
so
when you did?
I need to get, I think I need to start journaling again. I did last year when I started or several months ago when I started the podcast, I was writing down the ones that really stood out. I was writing down my dreams. And then it became a point because I do it. It's like part of me waking up in the morning is I wake up and the first thing I do is like, oh, what did I dream? Oh, I dreamt about all of this and I just kind of play it through my head. And then I just start sorting through. I'm like, okay, was there anything in there that I should pay attention to or that was there a lesson, something along those lines. And I feel that when you write down your dreams, kind of the purpose is so that you can go back and reflect on it at a later time. And that's the part that I'm not yet doing because I do a lot of the interpretation kind of on the fly. But I've been telling myself that it would be useful not only for myself, but also for our podcast if I would start writing them down. But currently, it's just part of my waking up. So if and I remember my dreams almost on a nightly basis. So I just kind of do the interpretation on the spot, get the information that's supposed to come through, and then move on. But I definitely should start writing them down because there may be deeper meanings that I'm missing. But I guess I'm kind of relying on the things that I miss, I'm relying on them to come through in another dream at another time.
Yeah, if you had this interview with Maria, like we do the interpretation kind of on the go. That is, once you've been doing that, like you're journaling, you start that at the start just as a way to get going. And then you just intuitively like, oh, you get something come through and then you just go with it. So and then I suppose if you get the nudge to like, oh, I should write it down again, maybe there's something coming, you know? Um, or
Yep.
it's just if you feel like you need to fine tune, like you say, that you need to, get some more nuggets that are coming through.
Yeah.
So I suppose you just go with the flow with what you're feeling. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to say, there was a little bit of interference there when you first started speaking. So I hope I didn't miss anything that was too important. I got most of what you had said. If you
Oh, good.
remember what you started off with, you could repeat it. But
I think I just said about the interview with narrator.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about like how you don't journal at the moment, but you just kind of interpret as you go.
Right, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Perfect. Glad we didn't miss too
yeah.
much. Just that's another Narita name drop.
Shout out to Narita. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, if anybody has found our channel not through Narita, you really should go check out Narita's at podcast. It's great. Um
I love the shout out at the end of the episode. You shout out to me, and I was doing the gardening today, and I was like, I had a massive smile on my face. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
it's like I got to shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a really great episode too. like I've got to go back and listen to it again. But I started to listen to it yesterday, I guess. Yeah, it dropped yesterday. So I started to listen to the beginning of it. I was like, oh wow. We had some cool conversations.
Start talking about puzzles and diamond. What do you don't call it diamond art? What do you call it? Diamond painting.
Oh, sorry. I was muted. Diamond bead painting.
Yes, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Nice and light, not too heavy. So it's good. But no, we should you should put that in the link to the video in the when you upload this video, this recording, I reckon.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
that was a great
Especially,
interview.
oh, thanks. Yeah, especially since we've
Yeah,
name dropped it a lot too. I will do that.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got some subscribers as well since the video was posted too, so which is great. We're up to 18 now.
Yeah, thank you everyone. We appreciate all of you, whoever you are.
Sorry about that. I still getting over a cold, so I have to cough a bunch. So if I mute myself and disappear, that's why. Okay. Um, yeah, so I
I'll
guess we've given an
I'll
overview.
share my thing and I'll read it directly from my journal.
Okay.
So it's literally how my brain works and like yeah, I'm not a storyteller and I'll change the names just because it's my uncle and then yeah, someone else because I haven't asked for permission, so I'll just change the names. But it won't affect anything else. So cool. So this was the 16th of May 2023. So this was, yeah, last year. And it was I woke up at 7:24 a.m. So I was slept in a little bit. So yeah, I was in a log cabin, location unknown. Uncle Jeff standing in the kitchen. I'm standing at the table. Jeff is slightly chubbier than he is in real life, and he is expressing himself strongly. While Jeff is releasing all his pain, he mentions that ne-
We have some technical difficulties here this morning. Bear with me, folks. We have lost the
something to that.
okay. We lost as soon as you said releasing pain, the audio cut out and you froze. So
Oh, I think my internet's all right. Yep. All right. All right. So while Jeff is releasing all his pain, he mentions that now I have the chance to deal with everything that happened with Fred. And that was a dream. And yeah, it was so vivid that yeah, I was like, oh, I definitely have to write that one down. Even though there wasn't like a lot to it, I think because it was about my uncle and my me and my uncle are quite close in the terms of where I like we can talk about openly about things. So I think it was I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was a message I needed to pass on to him. So I contacted him that morning, told him what came through, and he mentioned to me that he'd run into this particular person. What did I say? I called him
Fred.
Fred. Yeah. And saw him like he hadn't seen him for 2 years and bumped into him the day before. And I was like, what are the chances? Definitely not a coincidence. So
Definitely
yeah,
not a
yeah.
coincidence.
And we've discussed this before,
Hmm.
like what it meant. But the way you described it, like you interpreted it, like I never thought of it before. So
Yeah, so
um
as you're reading it, I was like, oh, I remember everything that I had that had come to me with with this. And it's interesting because I was hoping that something different will come through, but I'm already like got all the information that I already had before. So that's
Yeah,
good information for me to know going forward is that I guess once I've interpreted or heard a dream once, then there may not be any more information to come through, I guess. Perhaps. I'm not sure. Anyway, to for our audience to set the scene, and I think that this can be important and it's something that um people looking to code their dreams should just make a note of. It may or may not be important, but and I'm not sure if we've talked about this in our episodes before or if it was for this discussion you and I had personally about your dream. And that is the perspective of the dream. So some people dream bird's eye view, third person, or just like, first person actively a participant in the dream. What was the perspective for you in this particular case?
I was myself, so first person. So I was sitting looking at my uncle. So it wasn't, yeah, wasn't any other view.
So it wasn't like like you were observing, you were actually there listening to
Yeah,
your uncle.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. So that's helpful because that actually falls in line with some of my initial thoughts on the dream. I will say that, and this is for our listeners, is, sometimes symbols or things that stand out in a dream, they're, what do you call it? They don't necessarily represent that particular symbol or that particular image that it actually is. It can be metaphorical, I guess. And so the thing that stood out to me was your uncle. You mentioned how he was looked a little chubbier, and you said he doesn't normally look that way. And and yet he was expressing himself, getting a lot of stuff off his chest or whatever. And so what came through for me was seeing your uncle looking bigger and heavier was like he was holding on to extra weight. So there was this, all that energy that he was holding on, the things that was, on his chest or whatever, was represented by him appearing heavier, appearing bigger. And then, which is then like why he was releasing all of, his pain and things that he was dealing with. Um, and then it was like, and I'm not sure this came through last time, but it just came through now. By him expressing himself and you were listening, and then he's like, okay, now I know how to deal with Fred or, fix the relationship or whatever he needed to do with Fred, he now needed to do. That's kind of beautiful because if we think about um just relationships or emotions in general, where if you keep it all pent up, it does like affect you physically. And just being able to talk to somebody and getting it out, it allows your brain to process the information in a different way because you've now expressed it. And so once you've expressed it, now your brain in the background is like, digesting it and doing calculations or whatever it does to figure things out. And then he's had this like aha moment. It's like, okay, now I can move forward and address this particular thing. So uh yeah, that's kind of great. There is something else we'll talk about as well, which I know you know what it is, but do you have any comments on the interpretation so far?
No, that's good. That's I do like when you I think you did say originally when I'm saying like he's chubbier than what he normally is. And that stood out to me because he's a very fit person. So he's never been big or even just a little bit of weight on. He's always been quite fit. So that stood out to me a lot. And I suppose I never looked at it that way. It was kind of like it didn't make sense to me. And also him expressing himself, he's not the person to do that. Like he's quite reserved. So I was just like, this doesn't seem like my uncle at all. Like it seems, yeah, I don't know if it's, yeah, it just seemed like it wasn't him as I know him in real life. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So, and I'm yet to ask him. I'm catching up with him in a couple of weeks, so I'll ask him what came about from that dream, like after I spoke to him. So I'm quite
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Does he like to go, like, does he have a log cabin, or does he like to go to a log cabin or something?
He used to work up in the mountains, and now he does again. So he was like a park ranger and spent a lot of time up in the mountains. So then there's always cabins around. So
Okay.
park ranger, like you're looking after the mountains and yeah, so yeah, that's I suppose yeah, he enjoys being outside and in nature and that's kind of what I was picturing. Well, I just was feeling like we're amongst even though visually didn't see any bush or trees, I knew that that's where we were. We were amongst the bushes and trees and forests and all that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
because for me, especially where you say that he's not necessarily somebody to express himself, so he, kind of keeps that to himself, then for me, the log cabin stood out as kind of a safe place. Like it's a place where he can be to be himself and to, let those types of emotions and stuff out, which is why I was asking if like he goes to somewhere like that because maybe it's like a, somewhere for him to go. But I remember the first time you read this or told me about this dream, the first thing that had come to me, I was like, Biljana traveled to see her uncle. Like in your, and I think we've talked about this before, maybe, of being able to, once you're connected with somebody on a deep level, you can like visit them in their dreams. And so yeah, it's interesting because I wonder if you had like traveled to check in on your uncle and then he was able to like, you know, just tell you what's up.
In his own way, short and sweet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that was just what he needed to do, and especially if he was then able to if he it's interesting that he had actually spoke to the Fred the day before because that to me that shows that you definitely were connected on a subconscious level and you were picking up on those signals.
Yeah. But I always wonder, like, why did I get that? Why didn't he get that? That's what I always
Why he
wonder.
didn't have the dream?
Yeah, why did it come to me? That's what I always wonder. Like,
Well, maybe so you could talk about it on this podcast, but uh that's one aspect of it. I don't know. That's a good question. Um and maybe it was for you to ask him about it, or I it's it's I I gotta ponder that one because I'm not, you know, and we may never
it's
know,
yeah, yeah. It's not something that like I need an answer
uh,
to, but I was just curious. Like, even I won't. We don't have to talk about like what I dreamt. I had a dream about you the other night,
right?
and I was like, why did I get that? And but it's kind of relating to probably what you're like listening to like you're like investigating different things. So I don't know, maybe because we're doing it together, it's just kind of like here, like here's this kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean, there's so many angles where we can go in discussion about that and why or whatnot. And I think the easiest answer for me to say is we're all connected. We're all connected through the one conscience. And, things are supposed to come through for me or things are supposed to come through for you. But maybe it gets intercepted along the way, or maybe it's just not quite making it directly to me or directly to you, but it ends up reaching somebody in our field, somebody that's, in our sphere, if you will. And I do feel that sometimes information in the conscience, it's like different people will have little nuggets, as you call them, or little pieces of the puzzle. And it's almost like the universe has designed it such that those people need to come together to have a discussion, put their pieces together to see the whole picture. And it's funny, I'm talking about another jigsaw puzzle, uh, following up from Narita's podcast, but um, yeah, that's the puzzle of life, I guess. I don't know, just to make it nice little soundbite there, but. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it comes down to the conscience, and we don't really know how this one conscience works, how the mass consciousness works. We don't really know, but I think that we're tapping into that when those situations happen.
yeah. I think people like refer to it as like there's all these I don't know how to explain it. But I suppose it's just like the field is just kind of floating above us and we're just like tapping into it. So we're grabbing something, bringing it into our field. And that's those downloads, those insights that we get. So it's, everyone has access to it. And that's why we are connected. And yeah, it was just the way they explained it. It was just quite simple and you can relate to it. You just kind of like plucking it out of the sky, out of the air, and like, oh, cool, yep, that's what I needed. So I guess you can think of it that way as well. Probably
Yeah,
just butchered that explanation, but that's all right.
oh, I think you did well with that. And it's like
Yeah,
I like to think of the brain, for lack of a better word, the human body as a giant receptor, right? And you've got all of these signals that are put out in the universe through the mass conscience, and the human body has receptors on it so it can pick up that information. But just like tuning a radio station, I'm sure that you've experienced this where I, I don't know, like maybe you're like traveling in your car and normally you listen to a particular radio station, but you've kind of gone out of the range of where that radio station is clear. And so you change the dial just a little bit. The numbers have changed, but now it's still picking up that original radio station that you were listening to. And the static is still kind of, off as well. And I think that there is a direct analogy to the human body and consciousness in that we have to be able to tune ourselves to a particular frequency to pick up on certain downloads and certain informations. And if our frequency is not at the right tuning, uh, then you're not going to pick up on things. And so obviously that particular dream that you had where I was in it, I wasn't quite tuned into that frequency, but you were, and
yeah,
you were able to grab it and then pass on the information. So
yeah,
yeah, it's very fascinating.
yeah. I love it. I'm learning so much all the time, man. And because I hadn't dreamt for like uh nearly 2 weeks, like I've had dreams. I know I've had dreams, but I wake up and I'm like, I can't remember. I know there was something that happened. And that one was like the first one that came through, and I was like, all right, I gotta pay attention to this one because I remembered it.
And maybe that was done intentionally. Maybe you were not dreaming for 2 weeks because you were, on a subconscious level tuning your radio station. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was also giving you time to be like every night, like, okay, I didn't dream or I don't remember what I dreamt about. And, you were just in that mode of like, okay, just waiting for it to come through. And then as soon as one came through, you're like, okay, I've not had one in 2 weeks. This has to be important. And then, you know,
Hold on to that.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you want
Oh,
to share any of your dreams?
well, I'm actually gonna share, I may share the one I had last night, but I'm actually gonna talk a little bit about my fiance. So yesterday we were
Oh,
having a conversation. I told you a little bit about it. Um, and I've just been slowly trying to introduce metaphysical concepts to him and just trying to open up a little bit in things. And I've been doing it through connecting and talking about dreams. And he told me of a dream that he had once that was kind of a premonition type dream. And he used to his dad works at a school and like doing like cleaning or custodial work. And he used to this is a dream he had like many, many years ago. And he used to go sometimes and help his dad do the cleaning, especially like on the weekends and stuff. And he had a dream, and in this dream there was a picture that was hand drawn by a child, and it was just a picture of some scissors, and they were like colored a certain way, oriented a certain way. And so he had this dream, and then the next day he goes to help his dad. And in the school, there is the exact picture that he saw in his dream was on the wall in the school. And it was his first time being to the school. It was the first time seeing the picture in real life, but he had seen that exact picture in his dream. And I asked him, I was like, well, can you explain that? And he's like, no. He's like, I really cannot explain it. And I was like, it's like, doesn't that show that there is a little something to, you know, that you can't explain with your concrete senses? So it's interesting. We've got a little hook that we're going to continue that sort of conversation a bit later, but that ties into your dream in the fact that you dreamt about your uncle, and just the day before you dreamt about your uncle and Fred, and just the day before your uncle was talking to Fred after not having talked to him for a long time. And I know me personally, I also had a situation where I was going to a kid's birthday party. I was supposed to go to a kid's birthday party, and the night before I dreamt that I was at the birthday party. And then I went and I hugged the little kid because it was their birthday. And I went to go hug the mother. And the mother's like, "Oh no, no, don't hug me. I'm not feeling well. I don't want to get you sick." And then the next day, before going to the party, I ran into the mother and I was like, "Oh, hi, how's it going?" And she said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well." And I was like, "Oh, that's creepy because I literally just dreamt last night that I came here today and you weren't feeling well." So, I think that just goes to show that somehow we are connected and somehow we tap into different things, and we can have, I think that Sarah on our podcast had mentioned that it's like prophecy. She called it prophecy, and then my fiance
yeah,
called it
yeah.
premonition. So tapping in. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I suppose you're going back to what we were saying before is like why. And I just had a thought, we don't need to know why. It's kind of like when you're just being you and you're just going about your day. And was it your conversation with the reader? Like you say hello to someone down the street and just smile at them and that's it. And you never see them again. Like that can make a huge difference to them, you know, down the track. So similar with the dream, like you have this dream and then it may be like a premonition and then it happens in real life, but there's like no outcome to it. It's just you've just foreseen something and you're like, why did I have that? What was the purpose of that? And it's probably not until, down the track you might get something from it. Or it's just showing you that you're getting better at recognizing things, or you're showing you that you're connecting with yourself and your intuition a lot more. So it's just going, yeah, okay, there's probably a reason, but I don't have to know. I'll just go with it and take on board what you experienced and yeah, know that you'll get something from it eventually at some stage. So
Yeah,
that's just what came through there.
I like that that you don't necessarily have to know why a premonition is coming through. I think for our purpose of our podcast and discussing dreams, that being able to recognize when it's a premonition may be important, especially if there's any sort of predictive properties to it that can be useful in a particular situation. Because, there are times where um, I can give another example actually. The person who I dreamt that had been sick, there was one morning relatively recently, and she calls up my fiance and was asking, it's like, is Sarah pregnant? Is Sarah pregnant? And we're like, no, definitely not. And she's like, oh, I just dreamt that she was pregnant. So now, why she dreamt that, I have no idea, but I'm not pregnant. Maybe it's like seeing way into the future that I will get pregnant. Who knows? But it's that in that moment was not like an immediate predictive
Yeah,
dream, right? So how can we discern when something is an immediate prediction where it's like something that happened the day before, something that happens the day after in that immediate sphere versus something that may happen or may never happen? And I don't know if I have
yeah.
the answer, but it's just a question to put out there.
Could it be to do with how you feel when you wake up? Like if you feel like a bit of an urgency to tell someone something, or is it just like you've just had this dream and you wake up and you're like, maybe I'll just go and ask if she's pregnant. It doesn't seem like it's a real urgency to find out or anything like that, or it's so yeah, I'm just going like maybe how you feel in the dream could
Yeah,
be could be relating to it. I don't know. That's just a thought. Like we've talked about it before, like how you feel in the dream and what you perceive, how you perceive it. Your colors, your all that sort of stuff. So you take into account that sort of thing.
yeah, I,
Um,
I would say that's a good indicator. And there's definitely and I think that comes back to being in line with your intuition, right? The more you're connected with your intuition and that little voice, the more strongly those feelings are going to come through where you're like, okay, this is an important dream. Like you knew that the dream you had about me recently, like, oh, this is something I need to pay attention to. You had that feeling.
yeah,
Um, and I've had it in the past as well. And I'm not sure if this got talked about, if this was in our discussion that we didn't get to record for, or if we talked about it in an earlier episode. If not, we'll just repeat it. Um, but so I had a friend, and in my dream, I was hanging out with my friend, and then it was my PhD supervisor was at a kids camp, and I was with her, and I was helping make cupcakes or do something that they were doing for the kids. But I was totally butchering it. Like I was like an experienced baker apparently, and just really messing up the cake or the cupcakes. And the next morning when I woke up, I thought it was weird that I dreamt about being at a kids camp with my supervisor and, you know, totally messing up cupcakes, which I feel like I can actually do in real life. But anyway, and then my and then my friend was there as well, or I dreamt about her for some reason. And when I woke up, I'm like had the feeling, and I don't think I had spoken to her in a couple days, and so I just had a feeling. I'm like, either I'm calling her this morning or she's gonna call me. And it wasn't long after I woke up and had that thought that she called me. And I picked up the phone and I was like, "Oh, I knew you were going to call me today." And she's like, "Huh? How did you know that I was going to call you?" I was like, "Well, I dreamt about you last night." And then I went on to tell her about the my dream and the cupcakes and all of that. And she's like, "Sarah," she's like, that's crazy." And I was like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "Well, our supervisor yesterday had spent like an entire chunk of our group meeting talking about her experience recently with the kids camp and how she was making a cake and just everything went terrible with the cake." And and so, I was picking up on all that energy somehow, and it came through my dreams. So, yeah.
Did anything come from that, like that dream? And
Um, I think, well, for me, it was more like, I mean, I had spent a long time with my supervisor having done a PhD, and I also worked with her post my PhD. So I clearly am connected on a deeper level with my supervisor and my friend. And I think I'm really connected with my friend. So it was probably like somehow connected subconsciously to my friend who had all this information about my supervisor, and it was making its way to me in the dream state. I don't know if that's actually true. In terms of anything coming through, in terms of, interpreting it and symbolizing, I didn't immediately have anything come through other than for it to have been a moment for me to recognize, hey, you're tapping into something. Hey, you're getting information
yeah,
in a different way. And it was like more like a confirmation that there's more to it than
yeah,
than we think.
yeah. It's probably that's a lot of it. It's just an acknowledgement and showing that an awareness that we are, tapping in. So, we're it's not always all these extravagant dreams where, premonitions about big disasters and you're going to save someone from in a car crash and all these sorts of things with the movies. They make them seem so awesome. Sometimes it's just to show us that we are connecting with ourselves and with the collective to help us on our journey as well. So yeah, I because I don't write down every dream that I have. I write down the ones that, like, when I wake up and I'm like, that really is kind of not knocked the wind out of me, but kind of like, someone's kind of like whacked me on the back, like, hey, you know, you got to pay attention to this, So, and it's generally the ones that are quite detailed, and when I write them in, they're very specific about it. And the ones I've told you before, um, yeah, you gave me some good insight into those. So, which I didn't think I would have. thought about. So yeah, I don't know what's going with that, but yeah,
Yeah, I think ultimately it's just like you said, acknowledgement that we're tapping into the collective. Um,
yeah,
is the main take home, and then being able to um I think it shows the importance of talking about our dreams with other people because some, what may come for me may be different than what comes from you, and maybe collect, or I don't like the word collectively, but together we're meant to pick up on different things to have more of the whole picture. Kind of the puzzle piece analogy I was talking about.
yeah, yeah. That's it seems to be coming through a lot lately. The puzzle piece.
Yeah, it's coming through and I feel it's true. Like I mean, maybe I feel it's true because it's coming through so strongly, but it's, you know, the universe is a vast, mysterious place. And
Yeah,
we honestly, we have no idea how it works. None of
yeah,
us do. And none of us alive in this 3D reality has full concrete proof of what, I was going to say what on earth, but it's not what on earth. What is the reality we live in? We all
yeah,
have pieces of the puzzle. We all have thoughts and ideas and theories about what it is, but we really have no idea. And so when you have two people that each have their own idea that kind of align and like those pieces fit together, we get a little corner. And then, we almost need everybody in the collective to be tapped in and to come together with a picture. And then we'd probably have the reality solved. But there's so much
yeah,
design in our world and our society to divide everybody, So it's
yeah. And do we ever complete the puzzle? That's the real question too.
do we have
When
to
when
complete
do
the
we
puzzle?
complete the no? Well, what do we and when do we? Is
Mm,
it like because I think there's more to after that we die. Like this, it can't be just like I used to think that, and I used to like, oh, get into panic, you know, like when we die, there's just nothing. I was
mhm.
like, that sounds boring. Like nothing after death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of like, yeah, nothing, not even thinking, nothing. We just don't exist. I was like, nah, that can't be right. So, you know, maybe when we, go into our next form or life or whatever, that's when we complete our puzzle. We figure it out, you know. Who would
Yeah.
know?
And we might not even then either, We
Yeah,
never really know. But I do agree with the comment about there has to be more that I've actually the journey cards. There's a death card in the soul journey cards that when I did the reading for you last. And there's a death card in there that basically says, I recognize that death is just the beginning,
yeah,
which is when I first read that, I was like, okay, I'm not suicidal. This is not like, gonna go out and, you know, but yeah, it's just that there's something more beyond this world, beyond this reality that we're in. And I do believe in reincarnation and multiple lives, and that our soul lives on and our soul gets to choose what we do because the soul has free will. And so, if the soul wants to come back as a beetle, because you had a beetle on your hand earlier, if the soul wants to experience life as a beetle, then it can do that. Or you want to be a cat or go to a different planet as a different extraterrestrial, souls are eternal and souls have the ability and option to go anywhere at a particular point in its journey. And that's just a beautiful thing. And when I've had this conversation with somebody who doesn't necessarily believe in that, they're like, well, how can you believe that? How can you know that that's how it is? And the answer is we really don't know, but it's a possibility. And I would much rather live my life with the idea that souls can live on, that we're eternal, that, there's magic in the universe, if you will, than the opposite. Because yeah, it's there's also a possibility we do end up in the ground and then that's it, dead. There is that small possibility that that is the reality. But we also have the ability to create our own realities. And I don't want to live in a reality where death is the end. I want to live in a reality where death is the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Cue
And even in
soundbite.
the yeah, even in the tarot deck, not everyone's for tarot, but they've got the death card, and most of the time, like in a reading, not all the time, but it can be either death or like as in a negative way, or it can be the start of the beginning of something new. So, if you can look at, death is not the end. And it's been put in our face a lot in so many different ways. So, you know, I feel like we are given truth in so many different ways, and that's just, yeah, a way of interpreting it. And that's where dreams come in,
Absolutely. Because,
interpreting all these messages.
well, yeah, and it's it's like watching a dream is like watching TV of reality. I don't know. Yeah, every night kind of thing. Um, it's like and that's why I believe that there's dimensions, that we access other dimensions, timelines, I think are possibilities when we're dreaming. I actually, so on the topic of timelines, I was curious this week about a particular dream I had. This is actually yesterday morning. Um, because there's the ideas that there are many different timelines that are parallel, and sometimes they're stacked on top of each other. Sometimes timelines can converge or diverge. And, who knows? There's so many possibilities that you can go with that. And I I don't have the actual details, but yesterday morning I was dreaming, and it was like I was living three different realities at once. And again, I don't have details of the dream. I just have the feeling. So there's the one where I've got the feeling that comes through. And it was like I was laying in bed, and then I would have thoughts come through my head. And I'm laying in bed dreaming with these thoughts come through my head, I guess. And I'm like, I should get up now. And it's like, no, don't get up. And, it's like where you have like the option to get up or not get up. And I, I can't wrap my head on around on how to explain this. Just that the feeling I had was it was like I was trying to get out of bed, but I was experiencing that trying to get out of bed in like three different versions or three different realities. And it was like kind of spinning, but not physically spinning. It was just like going through the different timelines. And then eventually I just said to myself, like, just wake up, just get up. And then I like actually sat up in my bed and woke up. And I was like, I literally had just dreamt two or three different times about waking up, and it was not this reality. I was like, well, I want to be grounded in the reality that I live in. It was so I don't really know what it meant. I don't know if it was just showing that that's a possibility that you can have parallel timelines. Maybe it was just my brain exploring what that could look like. who knows? But it was an interesting experience, but I was very happy to wake up in my actual reality.
Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, I wonder if other people have experienced something similar. And if anyone that's listening, if you've had any experiences with different timelines or anything like that, yeah, please share in the comments. And yeah, because we'd love to hear everyone's experiences with their dreams. And if anyone would like to come on and chat about their dreams, get in touch.
Yep.
Because yeah, we're always keen to hear. And yeah, I do have one example, like, and I'll share this one with you. I don't know if you remember this one. I won't go to the full dream, but it was like going from day to night in the one dream. And I don't necessarily understand the dream still. I don't think I've like, because I never go back and like try and decode them like you do with yours. And I think I just see them as like just something's come through and then I acknowledge it, but I just don't try to pick it to pieces. I'm just not that kind of person. So, but yeah, that was interesting, like going from day to night, like just in the just blinking, like it's just day to night, and I was like, that's weird. So, and then also the theme of my dream changed. So it could have been two different timelines, or it could be just some time missing in between, or it just that's what I needed to see in the dream. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? You know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Who knows is definitely definitely the question. But it is interesting because I don't think I've ever dreamt where it like was literally black and white, where it was going from night to day or day to night as quickly
Yeah,
as a blink. So it's almost like when I made the comment of dreams are like TV or a movie of our reality, it's with that particular idea of it going from day to night or night to day. I can't remember which was the order, but it kind of reminds me of like, you're watching TV and then like a scene ends and then the screen just like goes black for a second and then it comes back on and it's, some different character or some different perspective. The new scene has started.
yeah,
And so that's
yeah,
kind of what your that your dream just reminded me of.
yeah. So true. Yeah, it's yeah, especially like all the movies that like there's a lot of special effects, and they'd be like having a fight scene, and then go to a different scene. It's across the other side of the world, and it's completely different. So it's yeah, it does seem like that a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah, and as we're talking about, this different way that the dreams are relayed to us, I guess. And I'm here looking for a page in my notebook, but I might not find it. It's okay. Um, yeah, so the different ways that a dream is portrayed comes across. It got me thinking about our episodes so far and the types of dreams that we've covered, the types of dreams that we've not yet dipped our toes into to discuss. And it really just makes me think, like, for anybody listening, I would like to know, what do you think about dreams? Are they just things that our brains do to, sort through thoughts and ideas, or is there something more? The fact that there's so many different realities of dreams, different types of dreams, really makes me question, like, there has to be more. Like, what is it? What is it that dreams are? And I personally believe, and it's the point of our podcast, is that they are messages that need to be decoded to help us to learn and to grow. Ultimately, I think that's what it is. And maybe sometimes the point of a dream is just to spark our curiosity, to have us question reality, to have us have these deeper conversations. Um, yeah.
I just had something come through. It can be like a slogan. It's dreams are a gateway to the universe.
Ooh, I like it. Dreams are a gateway to the
And you
universe.
can, yeah, you can replace universe with whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, it's a gateway into
Your
your inner self. It's a gateway into,
your inner
whatever it is.
world,
Yeah,
your inner
yeah,
universe,
yeah,
because, you know, we are our inner universe is a micro version of the actual universe, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. Why do we need to learn what's out there when we're so fascinating within? Like there's so much to know about ourselves. I
yeah.
learn so much about myself every day, and I'm sure you do too.
Oh, absolutely. And it reminds me, so I had the realization this week with, um, dealing with a cold and all of that. And then it came with some like fuzziness in my brain. And it was weird because I'm so used to every single day there being some sort of lesson, something that I'm learning, something that's literally growing. There's an expansion happening. And then this past week, I haven't been able to, I mean, I definitely did learn some things, but it wasn't like to the level that I do on a daily basis. And it felt kind of weird. It felt like there was something missing, like I was missing out on the
Yeah,
lesson that I'm supposed to get. But then I was also reflecting on it and it was like, well, maybe this cold I had this week was actually my body saying, "Hey, I need time to process and digest everything you've been doing. So we're taking a time out and, gonna, just deal with that stuff." And I actually had somebody say recently that I'm talking about energetic stuff, that sometimes a cold can actually be related to purging. So you're just
yeah,
getting rid of stuff that doesn't um,
yeah.
work for you anymore, or whatever that may be. Uh, so yeah, it's been
And
interesting.
yeah, and you can look at it on different levels, I suppose, like because we have these physical bodies, so we have to go through a physical transformation, but it's also something more than that. Like it could be having a cold, but you're getting rid of tension and emotion and all this sort of stuff that's stored in your body. Could be, it's the body's trying to detox physically or like get rid of toxins and stuff out of your body. But it's all related, like it's all connected. So yeah, just listening to your body, like, you know, so many people don't want to take a break. Yeah, that's the one thing I've learned in the last few years when we've been locked down and had a lot of time to sit around and ponder these things and I suppose not fighting when you're sick. Just let it be, let it happen. And same with the dreams. Like, don't try and fight to get an answer. Just let the answers come, let them flow, and yeah, let it be a natural process of it unveiling to you. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. And definitely listening to your body is key, both dream related and having colds or other ailments. And the need to take a break, we have so many things that go on in our lives if you've got work and, other responsibilities, and it's just this constant go, go, go. But sometimes the body just it needs a break. And if you don't listen to your body to do that, then you're going to put your body into stress mode. And that's actually only going to cause more harm than good in the long run. And yeah, so yeah, it's been interesting. I'm glad that my cold is pretty much done. There's just some some remnants to deal with. But made it through. Had like what, 3 recordings last week through it, or this will be the third recording through the cold. So um still able to do good work despite being a little under the weather.
Yeah, exactly. Held in there and pushed through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I like these episodes where we don't have a concrete plan. We're just like we've got things that are going on we want to talk about. We're just gonna let it come
Yeah.
out. Is there anything else on your heart you'd like to talk about today?
I think I've yeah, we've talked about everything that was kind of on my mind, and I feel like just having these conversations, maybe I haven't got any like concrete, like affirming things with certain topics, like certain dreams, because maybe I just haven't had particular dreams yet. But I feel like that's coming. I feel like in whatever time, in a couple of weeks, days, months, whatever, I feel like it's gonna hit me and it'll be like bam, I'm gonna have all these. We end up having like a 3 hour chat because there'll be like so much coming through. But at the moment, I feel like it's just kind of just oozing, just nice, easy conversation. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah,
Definitely. Well, I look forward to our future episodes for sure. And maybe we shouldn't have a 3 hour episode, but cut it into a two-parter. I'm okay
yeah, of
recording like,
course.
2 days in a row if we have to do to fit it in. Um, yeah. Do we want to give a little teaser of one of our project ideas that will be coming in the new year?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Well,
excited. Yeah,
for our listeners, Biljana and I have decided that we actually want to offer a guided dream interpretation course where we'll focus in the beginning on, just getting into the habit of recording your dreams, and we'll provide material and stuff and how you will do that. And then just have weekly discussions where people can come and talk about their dreams, and we'll ask you what has kind of stood out to you, and we'll give guidance on what has stood out to us as well. And so that's just something we want to offer in the future. We don't have an exact timeline on when that will be available, but stay tuned. And we do want to offer a guided course for our listeners.
yeah, it's pretty exciting because yeah, I feel like that. Like after we've met and we've started to do this together, things are just flowing naturally, and it's just so good, when you finally meet someone that you really connect with, and you just feel like you can just lay your whole life out. Like here's all my shit, and here's all my good stuff, and just take it. And yeah, so it's opened me up to be able to want to do these things and share with other people. And I never would have thought to run this course. Like, huh? Run a course about dreams? What?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, same. And it's stark contrast from what, I spent the last 12 years of my life doing, which was studying chemistry. And if somebody had said to me 5 years ago, "Oh, you're gonna have a dream podcast in the future and you're gonna offer courses on how to interpret dreams," I was like, "But I don't know how to do that. I don't, what? I know dreams are cool and all, um, but it's come so naturally for both of us. It's like you said, we've got such a deep connection, and I really feel pulled and drawn to what we are doing and what we're going to bring in the future. And I know that it doesn't stop with the podcast. It doesn't stop with the course. There's more things that are going to filter through. Yeah, so I'm just enjoying the ride. look forward to us recording at least once a week, but that may pick up a little bit more in the future as time goes by. Well, we don't know what the future holds. Um, but yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that. And if there's other people that would love to join in on our journey, like we'd love to share our excitement and passion of what we're doing because it makes it just so much more enjoyable that other people can join in and yeah, like get like other people on. If people want to have us on their podcast or whatever, it'd be awesome. Even just want to send an email just to say hello and talk about whatever. Join our Telegram group, you know. With it's just so good to connect with different people and yeah, chat about dreams and everything. I'm happy to chat about anything.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we keep having we whatever we talk about, we always try to bring it back to connect it back to dreams because I think there is a deep interconnection between our sleeping life and our waking life because it all involves our conscience and the collective conscience. So there is always going to be that interplay between the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
Well, thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in today for our episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Biljana and I always have a great time and fun conversation. Of course, we've mentioned if you want to reach out to us in any way, shape, or form, we have multiple ways that you can do so. You can leave a comment in the at the end of the episode. You can email us at dreamoracle4u. That is the number four and the letter U. And oracle is spelled Oracle. You can join us on Instagram, Telegram, and we're also on Spotify. So, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody else in between, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode and please keep on dreaming.